Good evening, everyone. My name is Connor Moran. I'm the director of the Wisconsin Book Festival, and I could not be more delighted to be hosting this event tonight as part of our fall celebration. I'd like to take a moment to welcome Nikki Giovanni and Kiese Laymon, who will be in conversation this evening. Nikki, it is an honor to have you and to see a little bit into your home. Kiese, thank you so much for being here. I,
Thank you.
as always, want to. Oh, sorry, I don't mean to talk over anybody. Um, I am always so glad to thank Madison Public Library and the Madison Public Library Foundation for allowing me, giving me the opportunity to put together great cultural events for free like this. I was saying in the chat earlier, we are joined by people in 25 different communities across Wisconsin, 35 different states, and 10 different countries tonight. This is just an absolute marvelous thing to be able to do. So thank you so much to the library, the foundation, and all of our sponsors for their support of events like this, and specifically this event tonight. We're also joined by Deb Shapiro from the Friends of Madison, or I'm sorry, UW Library System, who's going to do our introduction this evening. And so thank you so much. I will disappear now.
Hi, everyone. My name is Deborah Shapiro, and I'm an instructor at the University of Wisconsin-Madison Information School. I teach people how to be librarians, and I'm a member of the board of the Friends of UW-Madison Libraries, which is one of the sponsors of this event. So I'd really like to welcome you to this live stream event, and I also like to tell you a little bit about the Friends. The Friends has been around for about 70 years, providing support to the great library system at University of Wisconsin-Madison. And we're an all-volunteer organization that strives to bring visibility to campus libraries and the world-class collections the campus libraries hold by three big things. We award grant support to UW-Madison libraries and to scholars who come from around the nation and the world to use the collections in our libraries. We also raise funds for the libraries through donations and our fall and spring book sales, which is how I got involved with the Friends, working at the book sales and sorting book donations. And sadly, due to the pandemic, we will not have any book sales in 2020, but we're hoping for a really big comeback sale in spring of 2021. And of course, we sponsor events, co-sponsor, co-host events such as this one. The Friends really values our partnership with the Wisconsin Book Festival and Madison Public Library. We're all organizations that share the appreciation of books, authors, and the impact they make on their world. I get to introduce Nikki Giovanni, who will be in conversation with Kiese Laymon. Kiese is the author of a novel called Long Division, a collection of essays, How to Slowly Kill Yourself and Others in America, and a memoir called Heavy, among other things. And Kiese is the Hubert H. McAlexander Chair of English at University of Mississippi. Nikki Giovanni, I understand from Kiese and Nikki's chat before we went online, is going to present a better bio of herself. But the one that I have says that she's a writer, an activist, a mother, and a professor who's received almost 20 honorary degrees from various colleges and universities, as well as awards and recognitions from government, private, and public organizations. She's been given the keys to more than 24 cities and is the author of more than 30 books for adults and children. She works in just about every literary form, from poetry to prose, fiction, nonfiction, and she's the University Distinguished Professor in English at Virginia Tech in Blacksburg, Virginia. What really excites me about tonight is that this is a celebration of books and reading. We're all gathered here because we're lovers of written words at all times, but especially at this time when we're all looking for tools and inspiration to keep us going. I'm really looking forward to the chance to hear the words from these two. Both Nikki and Kiese have done all kinds of writing, poetry, prose, memoir, books for kids, you name it, they've done it. And they're both teachers, university professors. So they're not only doing their own creative work, they're inspiring the next generation of writers. So without further ado, I'd like to let them talk and welcome them both to our virtual stage.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let me just say before we start, Ms. Giovanni, thank you so much in my life, you don't get to have conversations with people that are responsible for the best parts of your insides, the best parts of your vision. We met when I was 30 and I was talking about you on stage, but I was so afraid to even introduce myself to you. So I'm apologizing for that. But I just read your newest book, Make Me Rain. I read it 2 times, second time today. And you have this piece in this book called A Short Bio of Nikki Giovanni. And I was like, we cannot do this 50 minutes the way we got to do this 50 minutes if we don't start with possibly you reading that. So can we get it in like that?
Oh, okay. That was awful of me to do it, but I just thought I get tired of the way that they do it. So this is my short bio. I shared a room with my sister, and my sister liked to sleep on the wall. And I don't know why, but I slept by the window, so that let me dream. A long time ago, a little girl sat in the window of the bedroom she shared with her older sister and read by a finger flashlight. She looked at the stars when the battery gave way. When she got older, she snuggled under her grandmother's quilts to listen all night to jazz on the radio, or at least until she fell asleep. She first fell in love with words. Then they somehow seemed to fall in love with her. She got to learn history, meet people, travel everywhere. And since this is a good fairy tale, she lives happily ever after. There may be other things to go along the way, but the words and the stars and the music are all that matters.
Ooh, yes,
I like that.
indeed. Yes, indeed. So, I met your words. My father was in Republic of New Africa. My mother was at Jackson State University. And she became a mentee of Margaret Walker Alexander. So I met your words long before we met. But when your words really grabbed a hold of my insides and wouldn't let me go, I was at Margaret Walker Alexander's house. My mother was working with her on a biography of Aaron Henry. And my mama went to the car to get something. And I was in the house, and my name is Kiese Laymon. My middle name is named after Miriam Makeba, the singer. My first name comes from Zaire, but I just went by Kiese. And I was in that house, and Margaret Walker was like, she called me Kiese. And I was like, my name is Kiese. And she said, boy, you better own your name. And I was like, oh, Lord, here we go. We about to get a speech. And the speech started with owning my name. It ended with her telling me I needed to write to and for my people if I wanted to be a writer. At that time, I wanted to be a rapper. And then she gave me cotton candy on a rainy day. And I went home, and I was not good at doing my homework, but I did my homework that night. And I read these lines from you. I strangle my words as easily as I do my tears. I stifle my screams as frequently as I flash my smile. It means nothing. I'm cotton candy on a rainy day, the unrealized dream of an idea unborn. I share with painters the desire to put a 3-dimensional picture on a 1-dimensional surface. And so when people would always ask me what you want to do when you grow up, I just wanted to say, shit, I want to fucking put 3-dimensional pictures on 1-dimensional surfaces, but you couldn't say that to anybody. But I want to start this conversation by asking you, how important was that friendship with Margaret Walker in terms of like communion, in terms of food? There's so much incredible food writing in this book. Can we just talk about you and Margaret Walker a bit before we get any deeper?
Margaret Walker was my friend and a wonderful, wonderful person. I read, my son and I had gone to Barbados. And on the way back, you remember if you died and went to hell, you'd have to stop over in Atlanta. And so, I know you know that.
That's right.
We had to stop over in Atlanta. And I had just finished reading the Third Life of Grange Copeland. And I said to Thomas, he was a little boy then, I said, I want to meet Margaret. I want to meet Alice Walker, because she lived in Jackson also. And I just loved the book. And so I called her, because in that point you could dial 411 and get somebody's number. Right. And I called, and she happened to answer. And I said, I'm Nikki Giovanni. I write poetry. I know you. Oh, that's great. And I said, we're in Atlanta. And as we being my son and I said, we're thinking about if it's okay, just coming down to meet you. And she said, oh, that's wonderful. Come down. You can stay with me. And so we did. We stayed for almost a week down there. But as we were there, Alice said, well, would you like to meet Margaret Walker? And I just, would I like to meet Margaret Walker? I mean, For My People is one of the most outstanding works, period. And I said, I would. She said, well, she lives just around the corner. I know her. And so we walked over to Margaret's house. And I just couldn't believe it. And you know how Margaret is. She was, she had on a house dress. She was very, very comfortable. I was amazed. And Margaret and I started talking, of course, Alice also, but Margaret and I started talking, and what we had in common, and I hope that Alice doesn't take offense, but Margaret and I cook. We cook together. Alice doesn't cook. And so,
she got some other talents.
that's a whole nother discussion, but we were cooking together, and she had 4 children, as you know, and so I got to know the kids. And of course, Margaret lived cat corner to Medgar Evers.
Yes, yes.
And so you could see that. And so it was a lot. And she and I talked, and I went on home, and Alice and I became friends, but I became a closer friend actually to Margaret. And Margaret also, being an old lady, if I can say that way, she wrote. I'm a writer. So if you're writing a note, a lot of young people don't write notes. And they will, and which I still haven't learned. They can, what is that thing, email or text and stuff.
Right.
They don't write letters. Well, Margaret wrote letters, and I wrote letters. So we went back and forth on that. And then, of course, I lived in New York at that time. And so going from New York to Jackson, as I said, you had to stop over in Atlanta, which was all right because you were always stopping over in Atlanta for one reason or another. And so Margaret and I got to be very good friends, and she was just a sweet old gal. And I was so glad that they finally made Mississippi put a plaque up.
Yes.
On the trail on the Mississippi.
Right. I mean, I would say it was about 20 years too late, but they definitely finally did it.
Yeah.
And one of the pieces in Make Me Rain is "But Some of Us Stayed," and I could not help but feel my grandmother, my mama, Margaret Walker in that piece. And I just wondered if you could just read that piece for us. And then I want to talk about migration patterns and whatnot, but particularly I want to talk about the deep South. But could you read that piece for us? But some of us stay.
I love this piece, so yes, I will. We forget the strength of those who stayed behind. We sometimes don't recognize what it took to decide to build a church, a school, a store to sell the yams we picked from the ground, the tomatoes we carefully watched turn red on the vines, to seek the okra pods, as well as to pick our own cotton. We took pride in our work and lovingly encouraged our daughters to dream. We sent them, our daughters, to school then, to college, and they stayed to help others. 100 years is not so long when we plant love with patience, when we find that song that gives us strength to go on.
Plant love with patience. Can we talk about that for do you remember the writing of that and that particular phrase and what it did to you when you found it?
I no, let me say that. I've given a lot of thought, and it runs through a couple of other books of the idea of who stayed. I'm not against the people who ran away. I laugh with someone, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say this on a Zoom, but I said, if I had been living, when Frederick Douglass was living, I would have screwed Frederick Douglass. I mean, who wouldn't have? He's good looking. And people are like, you can't say you'd screw Frederick. I said, oh yeah, I'd screw Frederick. But I also had a feeling, but what about the people who stayed? Right. They were not cowards. They were not fools. These are the people, and people always, oh, he could speak or he did this. Yeah, Douglass did a lot. I have a great admiration, of course, for Harriet Tubman. How could you not have an admiration for that? But what about the people, as Kwame Dawes, who was a great poet?
Yes.
What about the people who had to cut their sons and daughters down from trees, who had to wipe the spit off of them, who had to hold their daughters after they were raped? They stayed and built a community. These were great people. Yeah. And I think that we just have to recognize the greatness of those who stayed, because it was not a cowardly movement. It was a great movement. And it helped make America is a little crazy right now, but what would it have been if we had deserted the South? We stayed and made America a possibility.
I know that's right. And when you say America's a little crazy right now, and you know, you've seen a bit more than I have, 7 decades worth of crazy. And you know this is crazy. Is this as crazy as you've seen it? I don't mean crazy pejoratively. I do mean crazy pejoratively. I don't mean crazy in an ableist way, but is this the craziest you've seen this country?
Well, I was born in 1943. So you said this country, probably the craziest I've seen this country. But I'm a history major. I'm a Fisk University graduate. I'm a history major. We know that the Nazis, and watching Donald Trump, we have watched how the Nazis took over Germany. We have watched how an Austrian came in and taught the cowards, because they are cowardly, to hate, taught boys that didn't have the sense to, you know, they didn't have a sense that a pot to piss in, a window to throw it out of. Right. I look at some of the, and I'm driving down, I live in Appalachia, and I'm driving down the street and I'm seeing trailers, and they have signs in front of it, Trump, Pence. And I want to just, if I had a minute, I'd just go up and say, excuse me, are you crazy or just a fool? Right. This is a man who doesn't want you to have health care. Right. This is a man, he's talking about, oh, you can get a job. This was a man who put you on a food line. And so what you're doing is saying, I'd rather be white than full. That's true. I'd rather be white than hungry. I would rather be white than anything. And that's a damn shame. And I have a point in here also that it's a shame that some white people, many, wake up in the morning and all they have to offer the world is their white skin. So quite naturally, they're hateful. Quite naturally, they want to kill somebody. And they say, oh, we're looking out for our women. They weren't looking out for their women in Charlottesville. Right. They ran over her, didn't they? They weren't looking out for Mrs. Louiso and going over the Edmund Pettus Bridge because they knew they were shooting a white. They want to control the white women. And they get excited about, I'm against abortion. First of all, men, as you well know, don't get pregnant. It's not one of the, you make pregnancies, but you don't get pregnant. And what you're trying to do is control women because you don't, this is not something that happens to you. And what you're saying is, I want you to have my child. So when you do, I can then kill him. Right. The policeman who shot, look at the number of unarmed Black men and women who were murdered. Right. Look at them. And you look at that and you think, well, these are the same people who say they're against abortion. How can you be against abortion and you're for murder? Right. How can that be?
One of the things that I really wanted to ask you and I wanted to make sure I had enough courage to ask you, is, when I'm teaching your work, I'm teaching it on the page. I'm just enamored with the way you use space. Even in that cotton candy on a rainy day, the listener couldn't hear, but there's just this like luminous fucking white space between that next to last line. But as important as your written work is, you also have like this sort of reservoir of speech acts. And one of the things that people always talk to me about is the conversation that you had with James Baldwin, right? The conversation that was taped that you have with James Baldwin, because I'm sure you have plenty. And I just want to make sure I get this in because I'm scared to ask it, so I feel like I want to ask it. When you said to James Baldwin, this is connected to what you said earlier, lie to me. I want you to lie to me. Do you think back now at that moment, and what did that Nikki Giovanni feel in that moment? And if you've watched it since, can you tell me if there's any new feelings are evoked from that particular speech act, telling James Baldwin, lie to me?
Oh, I was so pleased, first of all, to be able to talk to Jimmy. He was a friend of Ellis Hazlett, and I had volunteered for Ellis. I say that to my students, and I say that, excuse me, to my friends. You have to be careful what you allow to be paid to do. And I worked with Ellis Hazlett on Soul, but I wouldn't let him pay me. So at the end of the season, he owed me. And he came up to my apartment. He said, well, what would you like? And everybody knows I'm a foodie. So he was thinking, I'll take her out and we'll get it. And I said, boy, I would really like to talk to James Baldwin. And he said, well, I know Jimmy. And I was like, you know, and he said, I'll call him and see if we can't set up something. It took him a couple of days. He called Baldwin, and Baldwin said, oh, I'd love to talk to Nikki, but I don't have time to come to America. Would she mind coming to London? And I said, you know, I would walk to London to talk to James Baldwin. And at some point we began, this was a 2-day conversation, went on for a while, but we began to talk about, of course, men and women. And one of the things that he was saying to me, because I was, I don't know, 27 years old or something like that, he says, and this is probably, you don't understand the pressures that are on men.
Right.
And I said, Jimmy, I didn't say Jimmy, Mr. Baldwin, you don't understand the pressures that are on women. And the women go out, you know, you go out every day and you smile at a man who hates you, and you do a job and you try to do it well, and you come home and you're upset and you hit me. I cooked your dinner. I made your bed. You hit me. And he said, well, I'm lying when I go out. I said, no, don't go out and lie. Lie to those people. They don't love you. Lie to me. Come home and tell me how wonderful I am.
Ooh.
You know, and that's how and you can see Jimmy's face on that one. It just went like,
You can see it. You can see it. You can see it.
Because nobody ever said that, you know. And it was the same thing. Who picked it up in another kind of way was, which I'm very pleased with, was August Wilson in Fences.
Yes.
You remember in Fences, she said, you know, you're talking about what makes you feel good. You think that every Friday when you come home that I get in that bed, you think that I think you're as good as you say. Right. And I thought that August Wilson did a good job, because if we're going to have these relationships, we're going to have to decide who, because we lie to everybody, who we're going to lie to. Right. So let's lie to the people we hate. Right. Yeah, not the people we love. Don't. And my parents, and I said that in Make Me Rain, my parents had a difficult marriage. So I never understood why he thought he could hit my mother when all he was doing was trying to love him.
Right.
It never made sense to me. It was illogical, you know. And I thought, you know, what is wrong with people not understanding that you love the people you love? And therefore, according to Newton, for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Right. So if you love somebody, then that gives you the right to hate somebody.
Right. And you've been showing us for decades that liberation in our communities is not liberation if Black women are trailing behind, right? You've been showing us this for so long. I'm interested in whether or not you have seen what people call progress. I'm not going to call it progress, but has the world, though the world is crazy, have our people, right now I'm talking about Black Southern people, have we gotten closer to liberation from when you started to actually give your life over to the word, or no?
Well, first of all, I have a great respect for and love of Black women. So yes. I don't think that we're behind. And when we start to look at the movements, we can start with a movement right now, Black Lives Matter. Right. We had 3 Black women writing each other. And one of them said, you know, I don't understand why they're shooting us, Black Lives Matter. And one of them realized that's a slogan. Let's just use that. When Mr. Divine murdered Mr. Floyd, that was something that went all over. Mr. Divine thought that he could murder Mr. Floyd and no one would notice, that no one would care. But everybody did, like they thought they could murder Emmett Till and nobody would care, and the world did. But what pleased me so much was when I looked, I was watching the news, as I do all the time, that Perth, Australia was marching with Black women, yes, with Black people, and of course Black men. And so I don't think that we're behind. I think that everything goes slower than everybody would like. That's the truth. Right. I mean, I don't even know how to tell you that. You wish you could snap your fingers or clap your hands, and it would be. But evolution doesn't happen that way. That's just not the way. I wish that I could find a way to talk to Mother Dinosaur, who was trying to explain to her babies, well, sweetheart, you know, the dinosaurs have had their day, and we're going to be finished. Because she had to know it was coming. She had to know. And she had to know that, as we do, things are changing. It's so wonderful, I think, to be a Black American, because one of the things we've done is we have stayed. And in our staying, we have changed the world.
Yes.
And I think that's not just our community, not just Jackson, Mississippi, or, look at Fannie Lou Hamer, look at where you are. And, we just didn't change that little spot. We're changing the world, but it's not going to change as quickly as we would like. But I love it. I love a lot of things. But speaking of cooking, well, white people tickle me. But one of the things, they do. They do. You've got greens. You've got kale and collards and mustard. You put them on. And of course, white people think the greens are the best thing. And so they take the greens and gave us the juice. And of course, we got stronger and better, right?
Right.
And I love that. And, of course, for tomorrow's dinner, actually, because I need to gain weight. I'm doing pretty good. I weigh 133 pounds, but my doctor wants me to weigh a little more. And so what I've been eating a lot, because I like it, is either pig feet or ham hocks. And so I do. Oh yeah, and I cook really good though. I really cook good.
There's so much food in Make Me Rain, and I could talk about all of the food, but the food that I think comes up the most, and the two words that I think follow each other are fried chicken and frying chicken, and then also the other thing that comes up more than anything is the word quilts. So I'm wondering if you can talk to us, if you would, about the relationship between fried and frying chicken and quilts, because this book could be called Fried Chicken and Quilts. Like it brought me home. It wrapped me up. I don't even eat meat anymore. It made me miss fried chicken. Can you talk to us about that for a bit?
Well, I am a good cook. And one of the things, Maya Angelou is a good friend of mine. And I miss Maya, that's the truth. And we used to argue. Well, Maya has had an ego. Maya said, well, I cook better than you do, Nikki, but and I say, Maya, I love you, girl, but I don't think that you can do that. And so so I would go down. She lives only I haven't gotten yet. She lived only 2 hours away from me. And I would go down and I would cook. But one time Oprah, and I don't know if Oprah remembers this, Oprah was coming down, and Maya called me. She said, okay, you say you can cook, what's your best meal? I said, rack and lamb, which it is. It's absolutely my best. She said, well, bring it down and come on down and see if you can cook it. I said, oh, girl, I don't want to embarrass you, you got But I always keep it. I had a couple of racks of lamb and I took them down, and Maya, was in a wheelchair, as you know. So her kitchen was a professional kitchen. So she couldn't come into with the gas or anything. So she had to kind of stay and watch. And I rubbed it. I did what I had to do. And dinner was really, if I do say so myself, very beautiful. So Maya sits at the head of her table. She always did. So since I'm the chef, I'm on this end. And I'm looking at her. And she's cut the lamb, and she looked at it. She said, well, it could use a little salt. I said, girl, you ought to quit it. You ought to quit it.
Wow.
He had to laugh because everybody knew you ought to quit it.
Right.
It was perfect. And we laughed. And of course, the trick to my chicken, which I don't mind sharing, is that I use plant butter. And I don't know if anybody's using plant, but it's so nice. I use plant butter, and I use ginger. So I'm going to rub. If I were doing it, I would rub the chicken in ginger, and then I'm going to fry it in plant butter. Very slow. Everything I cook slowly, and so it's just a lot of fun, And
but also,
with these old ladies,
it also
I cook with my grandmother. Yeah.
It also seems like you found healthy competition in cooking. And I'm interested in whether or not that sort of healthy competition was also shared amongst your artist contemporaries when it came to art creation.
I don't know. I mean, I was a friend, and I miss her too. Speaking of people, I miss Toni Morrison, but Toni and I could spend all day together. We spend, I could go up when she lived up Hudson on the River. I could go and we could spend all day and not say 3 words,
Wow.
We'd fix your sandwich because there was no point in me discussing with a brilliant woman what she did or how she did it. That's stupid. That would be Rosa Parks was a friend, and that'd be like me asking Miss Parks, well, how did you feel getting on, what kind of shit is that? Excuse me. What kind of stuff is that?
Right.
That's not what you do. I'm just her friend. So I would have coffee with Miss Parks drank tea, and I would drink, I'm a coffee drinker. And we could sit and talk about some other things, but I would tease Miss Park. I can share this if you got any deltas list. And I always pointed out, I would say to Miss Parks when I could catch her off guard, I said, it's amazing when I think about your life that you only made one mistake. I said, it's just amazing. And she was a very cool person, as you know. And she just like, and what's that, baby? And I said, you went AKA.
Oh, no. You had to let her know.
Oh, yeah, she should have been Delta.
You should have been Delta.
Should have been. And
wow.
You get, because these people deserve to know that somebody is there. It's not going anyplace else. I have nothing else to say about some of the things they've said to me about some of the things.
Yes.
That's just not what you do.
Absolutely.
You have to be a sister. And I've tried to be a good sister. I miss my own biological sister, but I also miss the sisters that I made throughout the years.
Yeah. One of the lines that I think people are going to be saying forever from Make Me Rain is Black Lives Matter. Black ink reminds us why.
Yes.
And so I wonder if we can talk about that and also talk a bit about the ink that you have in your skin that some people might not know. But let's first focus on the text for a second. Black Lives Matter. Black ink reminds us why. Not black ink should, not black ink can. Black ink reminds us. Can we talk about that?
Sure, because it's the stories that are told, and we pass the stories along. Now, as you know, at the beginning, we did not have a language to share with the people who bought or sold us. So we had to find a way to talk to each other. And that way was going to be, of course, music. So we talked to each other through music. As we learned, at first, we were not allowed to read or write. People were, the people who were owning us were afraid that if we could read and write, we might be able to figure out some way out of it. And so there's going to be that, we don't want them to do that. But actually we did, no matter what, the songs came out, the dances, and of course the dance. Can you imagine that somebody would outlaw tap dancing because they knew that something was being said that they didn't know. There was black ink. Right. I wrote that introduction for Stephanie Oliver because she did the book Black Ink. And I just thought we have to remind people that the words matter. Of all of the things, and this is Make Me Rain, but of all of the things on earth, I think the most important, to be clear, is going to be rain, because rain is what makes earth. It's the moss will come up. You could go a long time without food, but you can't go very long without water. Right. So the rain is going to be important. And the thing that's going to make us be remembered is going to be, of course, the words. We're going to remember. We may not remember who said it, but we are going to remember the words.
And when you decided to put ink into your flesh, into your skin, can you take us back maybe to the few minutes before you decide, or hours before you decided, and talk about how it actually happened? A lot of people might not know what that ink is, but I wanted to know if you could kind of narrativize us into that moment.
Well, the ink that's in my skin says Thug Life.
Yes, Thug Life.
I don't know, I can't show it to you. I don't think you can see it, but it says Thug Life.
Oh yeah, we can definitely see it.
And I wanted to do that because I too am a mother. Tupac was only a year older than my son. And when he was murdered, I wanted his mother, though I didn't know either one. I didn't know Pac and I didn't know Afeni. But I thought if there's a spirit, if there's a way for the spirit to carry it, then I wanted Afeni to know that we are all with her in her mourning. And as now we are with mothers who are mourning. I did a book. Let me see if I can show it to you.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
It's called Standing in the Need of Prayer. And this really is Trayvon Martin. And this is going to be a policeman shooting him, of course, in the back. Because I wanted to do this. It's dedicated to the mothers. And that's not to say that the fathers, I'm not against the fathers. It's just that we carry them for 9 months. We are the ones that carry them. We're the ones that sing the songs to them. We are the ones who birth them. And then we don't want to lose them. It's not right. And so I wanted to do something to let the mothers know, as best all I have are words. So then you have to use what you have, and all I have are words. So I wanted to use that. I really that's.
And it seems so important that thug life, like that word, has been. People use that word in toxic masculine, what they call toxic masculinity, almost interchangeably. But I think what you're saying and showing is that for you, like, that is another kind of sisterhood. Thug life is a kind of sisterhood and a commitment to the young folks, but it's also a commitment to a Afeni.
I think it's a commitment to, and I wouldn't agree, and thank you, to any mother.
Yes.
And again, I'm so proud of Black Lives Matter, because they have shown us how to take sisterhood another step, and how they can organize. I think they're incredibly well organized, by the way. Everybody keeps laughing and saying, "Oh, they need a hotel room or a suite. They need an apartment." And the smartest thing these girls have done, see, you can tell I'm an old lady, but the smartest things that the young women have done is to not have anything. They don't have a phone number. They don't have. They don't, because we know the people that we live with. If they had sweet whatever, if they had in a building, they would have blown it up. They would have killed them. And now they don't know who to kill.
Right.
And I love it. I love, the girls are smart, and we're getting smarter. Right. One of the things that I talk about, and because I love it so much too, is space. And I am a friend of Charles Bolton, who used to be the head of NASA. And I said that to Charles, what we have to do is we have to send Black women into space. And he's saying, "Oh, Nikki." I said, "Yeah, well, I would like to go into space." He said, "Well, we can't send you into space." And I said, "Why not?" And he said, "Because we could send you, but we couldn't bring you back. And it's because I've had lung cancer, and and he said, so when we brought you back into gravity, your intestine, everything would change and it would kill you." I said, "I don't know how to tell you this, Charles, but one day I'm going to die." And I just assume it'd be in space. I think we need to send a poet in space. And I'm 77 now. So when I do, when my time comes, open the back, the hatch, and let me out. And so the kids, that's how I got to my short biography. Open that hatch and let me out. So that when some youngster sitting in her bed, looking at the stars, can look up and say, "Oh, there goes Nikki."
And you read about Mars so much in this book, and it comes up in places that I would not expect it. And now I understand why.
Yeah.
But is there anything particular in like, we're talking about space generally, but what about Mars for folks who haven't read the book yet? Like, why was Mars so intriguing for this book?
Mars is intriguing to me because I've always thought, when I was growing up, Mars was the red planet.
Right.
And it was red. You could see that. I mean, you can go back and get it. It was a red planet. So it was burning up. Now, I'm a history major, but I'm not a scientist. But you're looking at a red planet and you're thinking, well, there has to be a reason it's red. And the reason it's red is that it was burning. And in my opinion, though nobody would dare to say that, what happened is that Mars had the same situation that Earth is having. We started off, we have too many people not too many people have nuclear weapons. Only one nuclear weapon has to go off. Only one. Because when the one goes off, the others are gonna go off. And Earth is going to become a red planet. So when I look at Mars, I say, oh, Mars they had a war, and the war burned them up. And I used to
Right.
talk to the few scientists that I know, and I'd say, you know, Mars has water. And they'd say, well, we're not sure about that. You know how scientists are. We haven't, we can't prove it. Said it's only logical. It's our sister planet. And there has to be water on Mars. Well, I was about 50 years old before we finally discovered there is water on Mars. We can grow
Yes.
food on Mars. We can grow, at least right now, we know we can grow lettuce and we can grow tomatoes on Mars. I think because I'm Black, of course, we can definitely grow okra on Mars.
No, that's right. That's right.
You know,
Wait, how you do your okra? What's your favorite way of doing your okra?
I'll fry it, to tell you the truth. I like to
Okay.
fry it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm hogging the time. I want to get some of these questions in here that people have asked. As the poet of the Black Revolution that stays in high demand, what are some self-care tools that you use to stay fed and full when generations of people look to you for words and guidance to navigate hard truths that are surfacing?
Well, I think I'm very lucky. And I think when I look at the fact that people, you know, in their teens are reading my work, and some nice old ladies are reading my, you know, I would never have thought that. But I think that it's important, and I do. I'm still teaching. I am going to have to retire relatively soon because, you know, you just get tired, you're just not getting things done. But I think that the main thing that I say to my students is you can't worry about who's reading you or how it's going to go. You have to write the truth as you see it. And that means that some people won't like it. Some people will say it's not good. And I look at, you know, I've won, and I'm very fortunate. I've won several awards. And I think it made my mother incredibly, incredibly happy. And that's what awards are about, making your mother incredibly happy. But there are also things that you have to say. And the things that you have to say, you say them. And somebody will say, well, you can't say that, you know, you won't get a Pulitzer, which I don't have. You won't get a Pulitzer if you say that. Well, you know, I can tell you what to do with a Pulitzer, but it would be, it's not personal. It's that you have to be free. And the main thing that any writer has to be is free. And so you have to allow yourself, you have to remember that you are your first audience. You are the first person who reads your work. It has to please you. It has to make you say, oh, that's what I want to say. You can't be afraid of your own words.
Right.
You just can't. And you
Do
can't let people.
I'm sorry.
I'm just saying you can't let people make you afraid of your own work.
You know, sometimes I think we understand freedom as a destination, and once we're free, we're always free. Do you have to make the decision every morning you wake up, every midday, every night to be free when there are like these market-driven forces trying to encourage you to not be free, to not do what's in the best interest of you and your people? Like, is that decision to be free something that has to be made daily?
I would imagine, but the advantage, and I would say this to all of the youngsters out there, the advantage of being old is that I watch the youngsters and I'm so proud of them. And I am a champagne drinker. I have a glass right here because it's time. I always know when it's 7 o'clock because it's like time for a glass of champagne. And I watch the kids and I watch what they're doing. And I've watched somebody, what is his name, Don Lemon. I got angry with Lemon about that. He was saying, well, where are the celebrities? Well, the celebrities were in the street doing what they were supposed to do. We weren't there. This is not a celebrity thing. And everybody knows that we were with them. The Black Lives Matter knows that we were with them. The young people know that we're with them. And to try to make the so-called celebrities come in front, and all of a sudden you don't have a movement that the people are moving. You have something that, and that's just not right. And I think it's stupid. I thought it was stupid of Lemon to even say something like that, because the people, you look at Portland, the people have been fighting in Portland. They're doing their job. They don't need anybody else to do that. So I go out to my fish pond and I have a glass of champagne, and I really I hope if Jesus is listening, I take care of him. I would, I would hope that he's taking care of them. I would hope that he lets them know they're doing their job because he did his job.
Right.
Everybody's just trying to do their job, but you can't always be up in front. You can't always be, oh, that's what I want to be. I want to get on television. I want to be. That's not what this movement is about. This movement is about changing, and the kids are making it. They're making a change. I think it's lovely. I think they're doing a great job.
Another question that is connected to that is people use this word magic a lot, particularly when we're talking about Black women magic. And the question is, have you had a moment recently that you would describe as magic?
No, I've just been enjoying what the kids are doing. I guess the closest that would come was watching, and I was looking at Perth, Australia. I thought that was a magic moment when the people in Perth, Australia were marching with Black Lives Matter. I thought, yeah, that's good. But that's as close as I come. It's not magic. These kids are working hard. They're putting things together, and it's working.
Yes. How, like, when you were in your 20s and 30s, did you imagine yourself in your 70s?
No, I didn't even think
never did, huh?
No, so many of my colleagues, so many people my age just didn't make it. So I figured that there has to be a reason that I'm here, and a part of that has to be I need to keep telling the truth. I need to keep letting people know that we love them and that we appreciate what they're doing. We understand what they're doing, and I need to get out of the way because I've watched so many people my age be in the way. And if you remember when Bill Cosby, and I remember a lot of people were so upset. And I was watching, a long time ago when Bill was doing something, and I was on stage, and I said, "There's something wrong with Bill Cosby." People got angry with me, and it wasn't until late, people, "Oh, you picking on Bill?" I said, "I'm not picking on Bill. Bill is a fool. If he's talking about well, he is. He's talking about the way to go. Remember, he was talking about you shouldn't wear your pants hanging down. You should wear your pants any way you want, because these are the children, the great grandchildren of men who, when the Klan came, the first thing they did was pull their pants down so that they could play with their penises. Am I right? I'm right. I know I'm right. That they would cut their penis off and put it in a drugstore window, and people would come by and sell it, and they would make postcards. And the United States Post Office Service had to quit carrying that post office. They said, that postcard, we're not going to mail that anymore. Something is wrong with that. And all I was doing was pointing out, Bill is doing that same thing. There's something wrong with Bill. People get mad. People are going to get mad at you. And so what?
So let me ask you this question. So during this pandemic, I'm interested in not just the culinary arts or the creation of like masterpieces like Make Me Rain, but have you found any other pleasurable practices that you might not have found had we not been in a pandemic? Have you found anything else to bring you joy and pleasure in this whatever this is?
I was really disappointed that Trump didn't die. So I think that I think he didn't have it. I think he's tried to use the COVID for sympathy. I think that he never had the COVID, because somebody should have died. You got a wife, you got a child who's crazy. Something's wrong with Barron. Barron can't talk. You've got your daughters. You got all those people in the White House, and not one of them died. And yet we have 216 Americans who are dead. Right? Am I right? So yes. I think that Trump never had anything. He wanted to pretend that he did, so that people would say, "Oh, we ought to feel sorry for Trump." Trump is a liar, and we know that he's a liar, and we know that he tries to figure out what will work or what he thinks will work for them. For the rest of us, I think the pandemic has been really good because it's brought us home, and we've had to stay home, and we have to talk to each other in a way that we sort of didn't. You weren't You weren't home all the time. And for the longest, you just go, what you do, you go to the grocery store. And I don't even go to the market anymore because the market is open. And I'm sorry about that because I love the market because my okra crop didn't do well this year. Right. And I have a friend, Donna, who sells at the market, and hers did. And so I wanted to go and get hers, but I thought I shouldn't take that chance because I'm around people. And I do teach every Tuesday and Thursday. And one of the things that I'm trying to do there is take care of my students. But I think that my students deserve to see their professor. And so I have a doctor, I have a surgeon's, and it's clear, you've seen those. I have a surgeon's mask that I can wear so that they can at least look at me, because it's trying to encourage people in their writing is very difficult. And you need to look at the person, they need to be able to look at you. And so we're doing it. We're doing a book, so it's gonna be kind of fun.
Well, okay, they tell me I have two more questions that I can ask, and so I'm just gonna be very selfish and ask two I want to ask. I think that the way you write about work, about academic work, about Virginia Tech, in some way is one of one. How are you able to write about work, write about Virginia Tech, write about the things that happen, the things that don't, and not allow it to consume you? How are you able to use your art to explore work in a way that's not consuming?
Well, first of all, Virginia Tech is really the only real job that I've had. So that's really funny. I've done some speaking around, but it's a real job. And when I accepted this job, it was really funny. I didn't know a whole lot about working. I mean, my parents worked, but I didn't know a lot about it. And so you go and you fill out the papers and stuff. And school started, and I'm teaching writing. And, at the first of the month, you get a check. And so you go to the post office, there's, you have your post box, you get a check, and I got a check. And I thought, oh, that's really nice. And you put it in because I don't basically handle my money. I have an accountant who does that. But on the 15th of the month, there was another check. And I said to my friend Jenny, who I'd be lost without, and I said to Jenny, oh, there's a mistake. They gave me another check. They already paid me. And she said, get 2 checks a month. I said, damn, if I had known that, I would have taken the job earlier. I didn't realize that you get 2 checks. I was like, wow. And I am an Appalachian. I was born in Knoxville, Tennessee. The Appalachian community has been misused because one of the things we don't want the white Appalachian community to know is how important they are into saving America. If West Virginia had not pulled away from Virginia, the Civil War would have gone differently, because we would have gone from, the Civil War would have gone from the Atlantic to the Ohio. And it would have been fought very differently. But the Appalachians, who also welcomed the enslaved as they were running, as they were chained, as they were trying to escape, they welcomed them. And when the war broke out, when the Civil War broke out, it was Appalachia that said, we are not going to send our sons to die so that the Shenandoah can have slaves. And they broke away. They were going to be Kanawha because of the river, but they became West Virginia. But putting that line in there saved America, really made such a difference. So there's nothing not to like about Appalachia. And now there are a lot of people that would like white Appalachians to dislike Black Americans. And actually, if you leave everybody alone, we get along. Listen to the music sometime. Look at the Everly Brothers, all of them. When we were all together, when everybody could be drafted and should be, we were singing the same songs, and we eat a lot of the same foods.
No doubt.
And the only people you can laugh at, and I read the comics every day. I say to my students, you have to read something every day. I read the comics every day. But on Sunday, one of the comics that they have, which is an amazing thing, is still Snuffy Smith, who was a short, sort of dwarf guy, married to Louisa, who is a fat woman. The sheriff is there, Nelson is there, not Nelson, Jughead is there. And we laugh at them because they're all living in a trailer house. If that was Black people, we would close the newspaper down. But everybody's laughing. Everybody's laughing because it's okay to laugh at the Appalachians. They're still trying to what would be called put them in their place. And that has to stop. That has to stop. So there have been a couple of books that have come out about, you know, I am white trash. And that's good. Talk about it because they've tried to laugh at what they would call white trash to try to keep those people from claiming their spot in the saving of this nation.
Absolutely. Last question, and I'm so thankful for what you've given us tonight, what you've given us in your career. You've literally given us life. Okay, so I was talking to a 7th grader 2 weeks ago, and the 7th grader said, I have 3 sentences, Professor Laymon, and they all seem to mean the same thing, but they're different words, right? And the 3 sentences were, we will survive, we will win, we will be free. The 7th grader wanted me to understand that those three sentences mean something completely different, but they feel the same. So I wanted to ask you, because you are Nikki Giovanni, is there a difference between we will win, we will survive, and we will be free?
It makes sense to me. I would say to a 7th grader particularly, we've already survived because nobody thought for 200 years. I mean, look at how long that we have gone and nobody thought we would still be here. And we're not only still be here, but I would say to him, because I have a neighbor, by the way, her name is Brooklyn, and Brooklyn is 9 years old. And I've been sending little things over. And I would say, it's not that, but we have joy. So freedom, we have to decide, what does it mean to be free? Because freedom isn't free and it's not cheap, but a part of freedom is joy. And nobody understands how Black Americans still have joy. Nobody understands. It's one of the most, people are wondering, like, you know, what's wrong with those people? And what we've done is we have refused to let them take away our God and our joy. And that is what has taken us one step. There's an old spiritual, I'm sure you know it. We are climbing Jacob's ladder. Every round goes higher and higher. So we were talking about it earlier. We're doing what we're supposed to do. Some of us wished, and maybe I would count myself among them, it could go faster. Some of us wish that it would just be all right, but it doesn't work like that. So we just continue to climb Jacob's ladder. That's what we're doing.
That's it. Thank you so much for loving us over and over again. Thank you for showing us different ways of loving us. If y'all out there, please, y'all, make me rain. Let's get as many poetry groups, book clubs together to talk about this innovative use of poem and prose right here. This right here, I think, can carry us into the next season. Thank you, Ms. Giovanni, for loving us, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to spend a little bit of time with you on this, what is this, Thursday? I don't know what night it is, but I am grateful. I am thankful. I have a life because of you. I can do for my family because of you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. It has been a pleasure.
I've been doing this job for a really long time. Go ahead, Nikki.
No, I said I can see you, but I don't know if I can hear you.
Oh, well, I've been doing this job for a really long time. 18 years, 17 years, and I've never seen a night like this. Thank you both so very, very, very much. I think all 800 people who are here watching tonight are leaving incredibly changed and incredibly just full of joy for your words. Kiese, thank you so much for all of your questions. Nikki, thank you for your work and for being so generous with your time. As Kiese is implying, let's go buy a bunch of copies of Make Me Rain. You can use the link right below here to get it from a Room One's Own bookstore. Thank you so much to everyone watching at home. It's truly just special to be here. So thank you so much. Have a wonderful night. We have one more event tonight. Angie Kim and Kylie Reed will be here at 8:30 Central Time. Nikki, thank you so very much.
Oh, thank you. It's a pleasure. I enjoyed it.